Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic. Serious, what are some of the most common dark realities people choose to live in denial about? Attention. Serious, tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing a NOMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. Slavery still exists in many places of the world. A chocolate bar includes child slavery in at least one way, the main culprit being Nestle. r/fuckistle. A restaurant we quite liked in the Bay Area was shut down by the feds because the owners had slaves. San Jose. Slavery. Alive and kicking in the 21st century. Edit to add, it was Mango Garden in San Jose. Owners had several other restaurants around the Bay Area. https://2019/1/10/10/18177701. Georgia Onion Farms. Massive human trafficking /modern slavery raid. Barely a blip on the news, even locally. Funny you mention that. Here in Sacramento, people always refer to us as the hub of human trafficking, and folks sometimes forget that human trafficking is more than sex trafficking. So of course, while everybody out here has good intentions when they say shit like look out for those white vans at malls, they like to kidnap girls since Sacramento is the hub of human trafficking. They are missing the big picture as to why we are the hub. It is mostly workforce related. It was actually real big in tech space out here with those shady H1 companies like 15 to 16 years ago. Anyone can become disabled at any age at any time. When I was working with disabled adults, the company I worked for always emphasized this: we were only one life-changing event away from being in the shoes of our clients. One car accident, one stroke, one fall, even brain fucking aneurysms. No warning and you drop dead on the spot, if you're one of the lucky 25%. Another 25% die within 6 months. The most unlucky ones live with horrible and permanent neurological damage. Edit. Holy shit, I'm reading all your comments and I can't believe how many of you have lost people close to you and have otherwise been affected by it. My heart goes out to you. My dad died of an aneurysm about 10 years ago. He was only 62. He had went out to eat at Red Lobster for his anniversary, came home, sat on the couch and said, "I don't feel right." He fell over dead a few seconds later. The only comfort I had was the doctor told me that it was a completely painless death and that he was gone before his head hit the couch. My dad was a registered nurse for 40 years and worked the last 5 or so years in hospice. I like to think that a painless death was his reward for helping people that suffered before their death. My cousin died from an aneurysm on Valentine's Day 2020. She was a healthy, brilliant doctor, traveling for work, went to bed with a headache, woke up blind in one eye, went to the emergency room ASAP, lost consciousness, and that was the end. She was 47 and we are still heartbroken, but grateful she didn't have to linger and suffer. Definitely have some health anxiety about aneurysms. I would prefer to remain in denial of this. When foster kids turn 18, they are tossed to the streets. This happened to my birth mom and is the reason she had to put me up for adoption. She got pregnant with me at 17, aged out and got kicked out of her foster home before she gave birth. She had me and had nowhere to go, so we slept under the bleachers at the local high school. It was March, and I caught pneumonia. When she took me back to the hospital, they told her that if she didn't put me up for adoption, they would call CPS and I would likely be placed in foster care. Not wanting me to get stuck in the system like she did, she had been in foster care since she was 9, she put me up for adoption. I was adopted at 24 days old. I'm grateful for the financial opportunities I wouldn't have otherwise had if I hadn't been adopted. But the course of my entire life was changed by those people's decision to make a pregnant 17-year-old girl homeless. That's awful. If you don't mind me asking, how is your mother now? To quote Star Trek, "It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness, that is life." To quote Dwight Schrute from The Office, "Not everything's a lesson, Ryan, sometimes you just fail." One accident or tragedy can completely flip your life upside down. Worked as a CNA for a few years, and one patient's story always stuck with me. He was an elderly man who had gotten paralyzed and was in rehab trying to get whatever function he could get back. How did he get paralyzed? He went to pick up the newspaper in his driveway on a rainy day. Slipped while bending over and hit his head. That was it. Man got paralyzed just trying to grab the fucking newspaper. Life is horrifyingly fragile. I quit my job to follow my dream of becoming a fly fishing guide. 2 days later, someone T-boned me while running a red light and broke my neck. Doctors said I'd be paralyzed or dead if my head was at any other angle. I lost my dream because of that, but paralysis is my worst nightmare, and it was almost my reality. Sometimes you can't stop anything from fucking your life up. I hope that old man got some movement or something back. That our memories are subjective, full of errors and patches in order to maintain a balance in our understanding of events. Some memories are even false, and some memories are so different from other people present at the same events that actions, reactions and outcomes could be entirely opposite from each other. Humans assume that memories are correct all of the time, however they are prone to errors and even change over time. The Father is a really excellent movie about memory and how it influences our sense of self. The trailer looked so heartbreaking I don't have the courage to watch it. Sometimes you're the problem. It's pretty wild to me how many people can't recognize this. For myself, I remember as a young teen I would always play the victim with most problems in my life, but as more people called me out on it I realized that I needed to take more accountability for my shitty mistakes. It's pretty sad that a lot of times people will be too stubborn to question themselves and only blame others for any problems. Almost all sexual and physical child abuse occurs in families. Grandpa is much more like to rape his granddaughters and grandsons than the weird stranger down the street. But Grandpa pays the bills, gives out inheritances, covers medical and PYSCH bills. No one is going to come after him, or Uncle Bill, or Cousin George, or Brother Bob, or Daddy or Aunt Kim, or Cousin Susan or Mama. The least likely person in a family of abusers are the grandmothers, and they are simply too tired. I work for DHS in the sex abuse department, not a social worker but in the department. This is sadly very, very true. It's one of the reasons I'm very adamant about school education over homeschooling. Teachers are mandated reporters, and if you have a horrible home life and you are confined to your home, you either assume that what is happening is normal and / or are unable to escape the abuse. I was sexually and physically abused and homeschooled. I was not allowed out of the house unless it was to go to the mosque. I didn't set foot outside from age 8 to 10 because my parents told me about how evil and filthy the disgusting Americans are. Turns out they were projecting their own filth. Denial of this fact is all over society. It puts a smoke screen around the problem and makes it hard to fix. If news stories represented the actual statistics of abuse, almost all news stories about child abuse would be about mom / dad / uncle / priest / babysitter, extension. The public doesn't want to hear the fact their children are most at risk from their own family, they would rather hear about the evil stranger, so that's what all the news stories are about. This warping of reality leads to an illogical fear about child abductions and don't let their kids play outside or walk to school alone, where in reality almost all child abductions are perpetrated by the kids' own parents. I was 5 when it started. Only years later did I realize that my mother actually knew and didn't fucking care. I mean, she was in the room when my uncle laid on top of me, always touched me inappropriately, and stuff. How could they not see that? My brother's ex-girlfriend was raped by her older cousin when she was 15. The family wouldn't let her go to the police or the doctor about it as they didn't want to break the family up. I hate this so much. My stepson molested 2 of my daughters and I reported it, and my mill is mad at me for breaking the family up, and now she doesn't get to see her favorite, firstborn, grandchild. We're currently not speaking. And she will never see my children again. Pretty sure my marriage will end over this. BC my husband is literally torn between his children. I'm pressing charges and he's sad that his son won't have a chance at a normal life now. BC he's autistic. My husband thinks it's not fair. The kid is super high functioning and I know he knows better. He was hiding it and bribed my oldest not to tell by playing the games she wanted to afterwards. But my husband knows I'm going to do what I think is right no matter his opinion, and it might be the end of us, but I have 3 girls to protect and raise and I will not be putting him before them. Ding ding ding. The number of stories I've heard of rape/abuse being swept under the rug because it would hurt the family is sickeningly high. Also significantly more likely to not go reported, and it's still the most common by a wide margin. There could be kidnapping victims suffering from extreme abuse right down the road from you and you'd never know. I work in daycare. There's a lady I used to work with who discovered something like this. She said she went to babysit for a neighbor who she didn't know had a baby. Was told not to go into the baby's room. Did anyway. And discovered an abused child. Who had apparently been with this lady for years. When my husband was in 2nd grade, one of his female classmates said, "Did you know that when you play with a penis it gets bigger and purple?" Being in 2nd grade, he didn't think twice of it, but it haunts him now from time to time. When I was in grade school I used to help out in the special needs class from time to time and invite them to play with me during recess. One day one of the girls from the class stops me during a game of soccer and whispers in my ear, "My mom's boyfriend has sex with me sometimes." I was just a kid and didn't know much about sex other than it definitely wasn't for kids to talk about, so I just kinda gave her a weird look and went back to the game. I randomly remembered this encounter out of the blue one day as an adult, and now being older with a child of my own I feel so sickened and upset that I didn't do anything. I know I was just a kid and didn't know better, but Jesus Christ, it breaks my heart to think about what that girl went through. I hope she's okay now wherever she is. I have a similar story. I was also in 2nd grade in elementary school. During computer class a female classmate next to me, unprompted, out of the blue, whispered to me about how her uncle let her play with his weenie. At the time I had no idea what she meant by that. I remember saying something like "That's weird" and kept playing on my computer, and she never brought it up again. Nothing ever came of it that I know of. We never had a class together soon after and no idea what happened to her. Hopefully she got help she needed. Well. But I have to wonder what goes through someone's mind to hire a babysitter when you have an abused child clearly in the house. Like Joseph Fritzl inviting someone over and saying, "Okay, I'm heading out for the next 8 hours, don't go in the basement BTW. I mean, thank God the person was that stupid. But geez. As unfortunate as this sounds, probably because she was so used to it. People normalize it and think nothing of it. She probably hired other babysitters in the past. Working in childcare, it is incredible the amount of parents who will abuse their children. Then turn around and act confused when people say they're abusive or don't love their children. Where I live, a child snuck out of his window, went to a Family Dollar and asked to use the phone. The clerk was suspicious and called 911. Turned out 4 children were locked up in their bedrooms at 5 p.m. with no access to food, water or a restroom. It had been happening for 7 years. The children never said anything because it was normal for them. Google Baito and Carol Gutierrez. Those assholes were arrested, then only charged with probation. Some of the articles quote friends who vouched for them. It's disgusting how people refuse to accept that people they know can abuse their children. Google the Turpis from Paris, Car. Similar circs, but they had like 16 kids or something crazy. Warning, sexual assault of a very young minor. When my son was around 8, he made a friend from school and so we got to know the parents okayish. Father was kinda off, but nothing that raised significant red flags. 6 months later and the friend's 6-year-old sister was riding with one of her friends to school and blurts out to the friend's mother, "Daddy sticks his pee-pee in me." For 2 years her father had been raping her and using the older brother to run interference and keep the sister quiet. He'd wait until his wife had left for work and then rape the child and have her cleaned up and convinced to not say anything before the wife got home. The brother was manipulated into making sure she didn't say anything while he was away. He was a long-haul truck driver, so was gone a week or 2 at a time. Driver told wife what the girl said, not quite believing her. Wife immediately called the police and they were waiting for him at the house with a special welcome home warrant. He went away for a long time. To put the rotten cherry on top of this shit cake, she had to change their names and move because his family said she should have kept quiet and let the family handle it. It escalated to death threats and finally an armed home invasion. That asshole got a bullet put in him by her. He lived but lost a couple feet of intestine.